Hi, everybody. This is Megan.
And this is Steven.
And this is the Synchrony podcast, where we talk about transforming apostolic dating culture and ending loneliness in the church. And we are in our brand new studio.
I mean, the studio didn't move, but we just added a backdrop so you guys didn't have to see the paint peeling off the wall.
Yeah, thank you for all of you that messaged us about the paint on the wall and how bad it was. You helped us find the motivation.
I literally had a friend this week, Clayton. He texts me and goes, "Hey, by the way, I can come over and help you paint your wall for you, man."
That's like the sweetest passive aggressive way to say, like, get your act together.
Yeah, I was like, we're fixing it. Don't worry.
Yep. Thank you for doing all this, babe.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Looks really good. And nothing has fallen on the heads of us or the animals or the children. So
not yet.
It ain't going nowhere. You
hopefully
anchored it in real good.
Yep.
Cool. It's been a busy week.
Mm-hmm.
This has felt like kind of what it felt like around the new year a little bit this week. Like we were slammed with consultations, which is like the best thing ever, and some dates, and you've been doing the dad thing.
Mm-hmm. It's been great.
Yeah.
You had 6 dates that you scheduled this last week.
It's been great because we've had, I've been doing so much meeting and matching and date scheduling because we've had around 12 guys come into the Synchrony pipeline. Most of them in the last few weeks, because nothing like a sale deadline to bring people in at the last minute.
Wait until the last minute.
Yeah. So thank you to everyone who shared and who encouraged people to come try it out.
Congratulations, Colin.
Yeah, congratulations to the Taylors. Brother Colin Taylor was our winner for our Operation 50/50 drawing. So we love him, love them, couldn't be happier. And
we are sending them their money tomorrow.
Yeah, and so that's been really fun. It's fun to give away money.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. So yeah, we'll have to do more of this in the future, I think, as part of how we make things work. But that was really cool, and it was just it's been so great to get to meet just a bunch of new people. I'm figuring out that this work has like seasonal ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
And there are times when tons of people will be ready to take the leap, and then there'll be times when it's a little bit quieter. And so we're just kind of learning to navigate that as we go. But right now it's busy. Thank you to those of you who have had to be very patient with my email responsiveness. We've had a lot going on. We've been making some big changes around our house and around our schedule, and just trying to create as much bandwidth as we can to put toward Synchrony.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it has been. We'll talk more about that maybe in an upcoming episode.
So, babe, what's fueling us tonight?
Amazing coffee from Cafe 117. Thank you to Cafe 117, who have partnered with us in an effort to bring Synchrony to more people and also to bring great coffee to more people. So for those of you who don't know yet, they are an apostolic-owned coffee company that will roast your coffee to order, lots of different varieties and blends, and ship it straight to your door. You can also order it on subscription. 20% of their proceeds go to Compassion Services International and provide help for disaster relief. So we love their mission. We love their coffee. Cheers.
Cheers. So, what are we talking about tonight, babe?
We're going to talk about long distance dating.
Yeah.
Which is fun because we've had some experience dating long distance. Nowadays I don't even know if what we did would be considered super long distance.
No, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think so? So for context, we lived about 4 hours apart for the majority of our dating.
That's
experience.
With no traffic.
5 to 6 hours, depending on how many times somebody has to stop and get snacks and go to the bathroom.
No traffic.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely long distance dating. I consider long distance when you can't justifiably, like, off a whim in the same day go and visit someone.
Yeah, you have to plan it.
You have to plan it out. You have to plan a place to stay. You'll have to, all the ins and outs of, like, traveling.
Right.
So, yeah, we were 100% long distance.
Yeah, I guess with that definition, we were. And there's, like, lots of different degrees to long distance dating, right? Yeah. So there are people who date long distance and it's internationally, and that just...
that's a whole nother ballgame.
Yeah, the logistics are just immense.
Yeah.
So I think for for what we're going to be talking about most of the time, it's like people who are living probably within the same country, but it would require significant planning and travel time and maybe expense to see each other in person. Not to put you on the spot. What do you think about how was our long distance dating experience for you?
Ours? I say it that way because all of my relationships ended up being long distance dating.
All three.
Yeah, I'm saying, but still, I vowed before I started dating you, I vowed to never do another long distance one again.
I changed him,
and then I found you, and you were worth it. Well, you kind of tricked me though.
I didn't trick you. You knew I was graduating.
No, I know. I'm just kidding. We started talking.
What's funny?
And then
funny? Hold on.
3 weeks later, she moved away.
I have to tell this part of the story because it's really funny. So I had gone to Stephen's church for a long time, and my dad came to visit me right as we had started talking. We had just started, we had just had our froyo date or whatever, and he came down to visit, and because I had some event happening at school, and he was there for service on a Wednesday night, and he went up to Pastor Kyle and shook his hand and was just expressing how grateful he was that he had been my shepherd throughout, while I was in college, and just thanking him for the influence the church had on my life. And Pastor Kyle was like, "These boys are so dumb. I don't understand why none of these boys are dating your daughter and making sure she stays on." And he was kind of joking, I think, but
he was trying to keep a saint.
Yeah, he was
Sorry,
like, that
Pastor.
one. Yeah, and so my dad was telling me about it afterwards, and I was laughing, and kind of in the back of my mind, I knew well, there's this one guy that's,
Yeah.
that's kind of cute, but nothing had really happened yet. So I think it was the next week that
It was later that week I ended up going and talking to him.
Yeah. So the irony was knew no bounds. So yeah, so we dated collectively, probably, I guess about a year and a half long distance.
Yeah, pretty close to 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So we would see each other, if we were lucky, every month, probably.
Yeah, about every month.
Yeah, because I was in grad school.
If we could do more than a month, we would, or more than once a month, we would.
Right.
But it usually rounded out to about once a month.
Right. One of us could travel every other month, give or take, and it would usually be like
a weekend, a long weekend or something like that.
Yeah, one of us would drive on a Friday
Mhm.
morning and then spend until Sunday afternoon and come home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what was our main form of communication when we weren't seeing each other?
Texting, honestly, was probably a lot of our relationships. And then in the afternoons, we probably talked or FaceTimed. Do we Skype?
No, I hated Skype.
I guess we
FaceTimed.
I guess we FaceTimed, yeah.
Yeah. Skype was already on its way out at that point. Is Skype still a thing?
Mm-hmm.
Did it survive the pandemic?
It's still a thing, but it's not, from what I understand, not used very much. Somehow it's still running.
Limping along. So yeah, we were doing the long distance communication thing. So all this is to say, not just to talk about our relationship all the time. There are unique benefits and also unique challenges that come from dating long distance. And I think we should kind of unpack that for people.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the people that we're introducing in the Synchrony Project, one of the reasons why they're coming to the Synchrony Project is that there are not people locally for them.
Yeah.
So some people really have to just expand the geographic region that they're willing to look in, and that might entail some travel for them or some long distance dating. So we want to just talk about it because long distance dating today is even more different than it was when we were dating 8 years ago, 9 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just as a reminder before we get into this, if you are a person who has expressed in your consultation that long distance dating is not an option for you, we respect that. There are some people who say, I just need to have someone who's within driving distance. I just don't have the finances or the time or the desire to do, cross-country travel or interstate travel even. And we take that into account as much as we can. It limits the pool of access for them a little bit.
Yeah.
But we want to respect that. Everyone has different, capabilities when it comes to things like travel. Do you want to talk about the challenges of long distance first or the benefits of it?
I feel like let's talk about the challenges because I feel like the benefits are easier to talk about after you talk about the challenges.
Sure.
I feel like the most obvious one is you want to be around the person you're dating.
Yeah. And there's a desire that people have just to be in physical proximity to the person they're into.
Yeah.
I also think, though, that that comes sometimes, not all the time, from a place of wanting to make sure that the chemistry is there, right? And I say that because, like,
Yeah. Explain a little bit more.
yeah, so, like, even when we were dating, like in our first relationship, right?
Yeah.
We broke up. Go listen to the episode. Um,
Relationship 1.0.
yeah, we call it 1.0. During that relationship, like we were new and getting to know each other, right? And I didn't see you that frequently. And I would have moments where I was like questioning in myself, like, like, do I really feel this way about this relationship? Like when we're in person, is there that spark? Is there that chemistry, right? Because you get used to that distance and you're like, is it going to be like this when we're together? How's it
Yeah.
going to feel when we're together? So I think some of it is like that desire to have the certainty of knowing what it feels like to be with that person,
Yeah.
right? And I think that people like to, even if you plan to put up airtight boundaries around your physical contact, I think people like to have the option, right?
Oh, sure.
And that's a challenge, but I think it's also something that people just are looking for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another challenge that goes hand in hand with this is the financial challenge of long distance relationships.
Yeah, that's true. I was broke.
Yeah, like I was in graduate school, living by myself in a very affordable rental. Thank you to my grandmother who was renting me a small house that she is a landlady of, but making no money as a
Yeah.
graduate student. And what were you were like, were you a valet at the time?
I remember I was working for Brother Mackey building.
Oh yeah, you were building a shed.
Yeah, I was building a 900 square foot air conditioned shed for him. Yeah.
Yeah, you were helping someone establish their business.
Not establish it, just expand it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were, yeah, I remember you sending me pictures on the roof of what you were putting together.
Yeah.
So we were both working, I'm going to call them like sort of entry level, like lower paying jobs at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So the gas it would take to go somewhere for a weekend. And we were lucky enough that we had family that we could stay with when we went to those. So like I would stay with your sister or your mom.
Yep.
And you would stay with, at my parents' house while I stayed at my house
Yep.
or whatever to, to make it easy so you didn't have to get a hotel room. But if you are traveling to meet someone and
once a month, it was a monthly expense trying to go visit one another.
Right. And imagine if you had to do that and get an Airbnb every time.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it would be insane.
It would be hard.
So one other one that I think comes to mind is that, and maybe this is more something that women look for, but I don't think so. There's a lot of desire early on in a relationship to see how the person that you're with acts in their normal day-to-day life, right?
Yeah.
You want to see them at their best and their worst and get a sense of how they treat their parents and how they treat their friends and how they interact with other people's social group. I had the benefit of having lived in and around your life for years, and I knew that you were respected and that you respected your friend group, and I knew your relationship with your family,
All my friends were a bunch of idiots.
We love you guys. But
they know we were.
But you know what I mean? Like I had already seen that. So in contrast, I did date someone. I was in another long distance relationship before you and I got together, right? And in that relationship, it was actually very easy for that person to hide aspects of themselves.
Oh, that's true.
From me.
Yeah.
And I did not find out about those aspects until well into our relationship. We'll have to unpack that at some point. It's delicate because I don't want to throw anybody out under the bus. But I got into a very, very difficult relationship where the person I was with, over time, it came to be clear that there had been blatant dishonesty about the type of person that they were and that their family had participated in that dishonesty. So even when I was there visiting and spending time around them, there wasn't a lot of clarity around who that person was.
Yikes.
Yeah, that was rough.
I didn't know about the family part.
Yeah, it was wild. I had, if they were giving me signals about what they knew, they were not clear.
Maybe love was just blind, baby.
Love was real blind in that situation.
Yeah,
there's a whole story there at some point that kind of does impact how we see values-driven dating today. But anyway, so I think those are real challenges of long-distance dating. But I think there are also some benefits that are underrepresented or like under discussed because
Yeah.
people kind of like throw long distance dating under the bus as like the hardest thing ever, but there are some actual real key benefits to it. So what did you actually like about our long distance relationship?
I loved how intentional we were,
Mm-hmm.
specifically with our time. Um, we're adults, or we were adults at the time. And so we had lives, we had college, we had career, well, jobs. And
Careers was generous.
yeah. And we had jobs, and like it is hard to dedicate mental and emotional energy throughout the day
Mm-hmm.
and also be pushing really hard with your schooling, right?
Yeah.
Specifically, like, so what's nice is when we went and visited each other, we had very intentional time with one another.
Yeah, we cleared the calendar.
Yeah, we cleared the calendar. We said, "Hey, we are going to spend this weekend with each other,
Mhm.
and we are going to just get to know each other, spend time
Yeah.
with family, whatever it may be."
That's important. We prioritized time with each other's families, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like because, we were trying to stay holy, so we wanted to be around people.
Yeah.
And the people that were easily accessible because you were staying with my family and I would usually go stay with yours were our relatives. And that was really valuable, I think.
Yeah.
It gave, it built trust with our between our families, but also it gave us a lot of exposure to the type of people that we were.
Yeah.
And the sort of values that we were brought up with.
Yeah. So I can't speak for local relationships because I
Mhm.
never had one. But I really, really valued how intentional we were.
Yeah.
And so I think the intentionality helped build trust in one another,
Mm-hmm.
and also was kind of which now we can say we've been married for going on 8 years, that like we are that way in our relationship
Yeah.
because we chose to be intentional. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
Yeah.
What about you?
I liked being able to communicate with you when it was, this is going to sound really terrible, when it was convenient.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that makes sense.
I was doing grad school, I was working, I was involved in ministry. Like, I had these specific windows of time in my day when I could devote the mental and emotional energy into our relationship. And so it was nice to have that kind of time boxed
Mhm.
into when it would work for me in my life and you in
Yeah.
your life. I think it kept the pressure low. Like, we knew we had stuff going on, and it wasn't like you didn't. I mean, maybe this is just us. Like,
Well, I'll say we also had realistic expectations out of our relationship too.
long distance dating requires a level of trust and
Yeah.
transparency because you have to be able to say like, "Hey, I'm busy," and the other person not be like, "Well, you didn't text me back 5 minutes after I texted you. So who are you with?" Right?
Yeah, you have to have a level of understanding that person has life, and
Mhm.
I think that the big thing is we always gave each other the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
So if for some reason one of us didn't respond for a half a day or a day, it wasn't. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure we got nervous at times of like what's going on,
Right.
but we said let's let them tell me the facts of why they were gone, and then if it was not as big of a deal and they could have
Mhm.
contacted me just to give me peace of mind, we can talk about it.
Yeah. Like, always assume the best.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is it's a building block for a relationship is you shouldn't be building a relationship based on mistrust.
Right.
Right? It should be giving them the benefit of the doubt and letting them have the opportunity to talk to you about it.
Yeah. I also think personally, and I'm sure this varies from person to person, I found it easier to hold boundaries in virtual communication, long distance communication, than I did in person.
Okay.
I'm talking about like physical sexual
Yeah,
boundaries.
sure.
Like, and you can get into a whole heap of trouble in a long distance relationship with all the technology that we have available to us now. Like, being long distance does not protect you
No,
from
absolutely not.
right from
I mean, you do, and on that topic, you need to set boundaries about how late you talk to each other.
when you have your phone on you and when you're going to be talking and texting and like what types of even down to like what types of clothing you're wearing when you're
Yeah.
talking to someone. Those little things can stack up over time into a very toxic environment if you're not careful.
Oh, sure.
And people fall prey to that all the time. So you definitely do have to have very firm boundaries when you're dating long distance for how you interact with each other via technology.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I found it easier to set those boundaries and maintain them than I did, for example, once we got engaged and we were living in the same town.
Yeah.
That was a very graciously brief window of time.
Yeah. Like, wow, we haven't lived next to each other ever in our relationship.
Right. I mean, thank God our pastor was like watching us like a hawk. Like we were engaged, and it just adds a whole layer of challenge to it, right?
Yeah,
Because
sure.
like, just to be real, guys, like that doesn't go away.
No, absolutely not.
It doesn't matter how mature you are. Like, so that's something that I think, you have to be cognizant of. But I personally found that the distance helped with that a little bit. Like, it was easier for me to say, okay, it's, 11 o'clock. My phone is getting turned off now. Like, I'm going to go do this. Right. And also have plenty of time in the day when I just could not be talking to you and thinking about you and doing all the things. Right.
Yeah.
So to me, that was a helpful way to compartmentalize and ensure that I could kind of keep my focus where it needed to be.
Yep.
I also think that today, long distance dating is more feasible than it ever has been.
Yeah, absolutely is.
What are some of the things, like we've heard some of this, but like there are now tools and technologies that enable people to communicate virtually that have evolved since the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like, what are some examples? I'm trying to remember.
What's funny is the other day I actually was FaceTiming someone and I accidentally hit a button that was like group watch something together. And I was like, you can group watch TV shows together, which I know not everyone agrees with watching TV, but in our household we do on occasion, and we try to keep the stuff that we're watching holy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still one of those things. It's like, how cool of a feature is that to actually be able to pause and start the show at the same time and be able to talk about it while you're on the phone together.
Yeah.
That's a really cool quality of life dating concept, right? And sure, like that's such a small drop in the bucket, but when back when I say back in my day, we
10 years ago.
I was using an iPhone 4 to FaceTime you with like 480p quality video. It was like we were just a bunch of pixels, and so nowadays it's just super cool, and then you can do games online, you can talk to each other, you can it's night and day difference with
even
technology.
the ability of like, this is gonna sound silly, but like, in the future when our kids go to look at their family albums with someone they're dating, they will do that on a screen, because we have not printed off their childhood pictures very much, right? So like even something as simple as like a screen share ability, right, where you're on a call and you can
FaceTime can screen share now too. Exactly.
So you can become part of someone's world more easily. There's 1,000 different ways to communicate, even things like, this is silly, but like the easy access of like voice memos and like voice memo exchange technology. Like, I think y'all can get messed up on Snapchat and stuff like that, but the ability to send small video clips and just like create snapshots of your day for people, right?
Yeah.
That if you try to envision a long distance relationship in the 90s, where all you had was a landline phone call
per minute,
right, and maybe email, right,
MSN,
AOL.
On dial-up.
Right. Like, I don't even think like AOL Instant Messenger came out till the early 2000s.
I was using it in the early 2000s, but I don't know when it came out.
Yeah, it's still rudimentary, right?
Yeah, on Windows 97.
Oh, goodness. Nostalgia. Yeah, I mean, like, just the way that long distance dating would have worked when we were young compared to how it can work now is night and day.
Oh, yeah.
And I think even things like travel, you don't have to have a AAA membership now to find deals on flights.
Yeah, it's true. Even Airbnbs, like the thing is like hotels are expensive, and Airbnbs can be expensive if you stay for one night. Right. But if you stay for multiple nights, you get a pretty killer deal.
Right, depending on where you're going. Even things like the rideshare stuff, like stuff that allows some what used to be sort of more elite services like taxiing and certain
Yeah.
flights and whatever.
I mean, you have Uber now, which is cool, but like, rental cars are terribly priced right
Yeah,
now.
that's awful. Yeah.
But that's about the only downside in
Right.
terms of travel these days compared to, 10 years ago.
Right.
But so there's a lot of opportunities for a long distance relationship
Mm-hmm.
to still be involved.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess this is just more us talking about this in our experiences, because we want to talk to people who are interested in dating and never really considered long distance.
Well, and remember, we work with a pretty big group of people who have been married before,
Yeah.
who now aren't married, and whether they've been through a divorce or a death, maybe their last dating experience was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
When the landscape was completely different.
Oh,
right?
100%.
And or maybe they dated in the world and their only dating experience has been in person in the world.
Yep.
Completely contrary to everything that they need to do now to find someone who's apostolic, right? So long distance dating can seem really intimidating to people who don't feel like they're digital natives, right?
Yeah.
Who don't understand all the technological options. And we get that. And hopefully the synchrony process of like getting people into video calls and helping them kind of meet via that mechanism can sort of diminish that, right?
Yeah.
But there's just so much opportunity now to interact with people long distance that there didn't used to be. And I do think that, a lot of couples, like, the advent of online dating and its popularity is nothing new.
No, absolutely not.
And I think there's a reason why that's developed over time, right? Like,
Yeah.
people are finding when it is more difficult to connect with someone locally, you seek out opportunities to widen your network. And
Mm-hmm.
virtual dating provides that for people.
Yep.
We talked about the challenges. We talked about the benefits. This is a weird question. How do you think long distance dating has impacted our marriage? Like how our life has been since we got married. Do you think our lives would have been different if we had been an in-person couple?
I do think it has impacted our marriage. You and I, from the very beginning, though, we're talking about the big questions that we encourage people to talk about in synchrony.
Yeah.
Like,
I also think that's just because we're chronic oversharers.
No, I think it's a combination of our experiences, and maybe past relationships that help put things in perspective.
Yeah, that's true.
And it just made us realize, like, hey, these are important questions, and it's going to sound shallow, but I don't want to waste time if we don't see eye to eye on certain things.
Yeah, by the time you and I got to each other, we kind of knew what we wanted and didn't want out of a relationship. I agree.
And so that being said, like, we, from the very beginning, we're nice.
Cafe 117.
How wonderful for them to grace your jacket.
Also functions as a perfume.
That's right. Yeah, I see in our day-to-day of the ways that we had to communicate.
We did have to rely on very transparent communication from the very beginning.
Yeah, and I think because of past relationships where trust was broken, it helped not put distrust in our relationship, but help put things on the table, right? And say, hey, like, let's talk about this now.
Yeah.
And because of that, we both had that same mindset, though.
And we couldn't feel, it wasn't like we could feel blinded by the overwhelming emotions of being together all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like our relationship was very pragmatic.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I had all the butterflies and gushy feelings about you at various points, right? But like,
absolutely,
being able to say like, well, we've established this practice of just very clear communication and setting very clear expectations of when I can talk and when I can't and when I'm available and when I'm not.
Yep.
Those were good muscles to have stretched before we got married.
Yeah. And on top of that, like, say, like, let's go back to the example of, like, let's say we weren't able to talk for like a day and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I think we might have had an experience where I wasn't able to contact you or something like that. And it raised concern. And instead of it stewing and you being frustrated at me and not saying anything and it just coming to a head, you talked to me about it, communicated about it, and said, hey, this really worried me
Yeah.
because of X experience that happened in, my past. And I would love it if I don't mind that you can't talk. I would just love it if you can give me a heads up.
Right.
Right? Not a big deal.
Right.
You said, hey, this is what happened. This is how I feel about it. Do you think that's okay? If it is okay, can we move forward and change the way we do this? We did that, executed it, and from that point forward, our relationship was a lot easier to talk about when it comes to having time gaps of not talking to each other. That's a very specific example, but I feel like that is just a testimony of our relationship, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that what we're saying though is that like that kind of navigation is something that you have to do if you want a long distance relationship to work.
Yeah.
Like if you want to be in a relationship with someone who lives far away, you have to establish those practices of saying very clearly, the other day I ran into this with a friend that I'm kind of like, I'm sort of a sounding board right now for a relationship. And there was confusion about what this other person, what their intentions were based on the amount of time that existed between text messages. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we do not know. Like,
yeah.
We do not know what's happening right now. You don't have the evidence. And when you have that distance, you have to operate under the assumption that this is a person of character and I have to give them the benefit of the doubt. And that is such a good practice for marriage because there will always be an opportunity if you are looking for it to find ways that you feel like your partner is falling short.
Yeah. It is not, and this is my armchair psychology, quite literally armchair. I feel like it's just not conducive for a healthy relationship if you're always skeptical.
Yes, that is so true. We need to do a whole episode about like trust and skepticism because that is and people who have been through challenging relationships, like it is a temptation to just paint with a broad brush and assume lots of things about how people work.
Yeah.
But in a long distance relationship, like if you want to make it work and not just be constantly nervous and frustrated, you got to get that figured out before it develops into anything meaningful.
Yeah. When you come home with the person that you end up getting married to, it should be a place of comfort and peace.
Mm-hmm.
If I feel like I always have to defend myself or if I'm always worried about walking on eggshells.
Right, exactly.
Like coming home, it's going to come to a head and there's going to be issues and you're going to have to go to counseling over it because like you've got to be able to come home and have that peace of mind to know that, the person that I am going home to has my back.
Right.
And if I do mess up or something happens, they will give me the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
If
that
not, then
trust.
It's like anytime I've messed up in the past, like I knew I could come to you with confidence and with love and you would respond the same way. And I knew I wasn't going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
Like you're not my mom, you're my wife.
Right. So just to kind of tie it back to the overarching theme, like long distance relationships to some degree might train healthy behaviors that you need to have in a healthy marriage, right?
Yeah. Not saying that local relationships won't give you that as well.
Yeah. If you have to be good communicators no matter what.
With long distance, you kind of have to be more intentional about it.
Yeah. Has it negatively affected our relationship in any way? The fact that we had a long distance?
Yeah, it has in one way. And I think this is just a testament of who we are as people.
How has it negatively impacted our marriage?
We are terrible at dating.
We are so bad at actually going on dates.
Our anniversary is next week.
We don't know what we're doing.
And we have no idea what we're doing. We have no
plans. Yet. Here's what we do. This is what we do. Because so here's the thing. Because when we were dating, when we were long distance and we got together, we would just be like, I just want to hang out with you.
Yeah. And it's all about quality time.
Right. So we would just hang out with our families and stay in the
and
same.
We were broke.
Also that. Had no money. We had spent it all on gas.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's borrow my friend's canoe.
Right. And like we weren't going to do like theme park, like we didn't have money to throw around at random stuff. So we just spent time together and with each other's families and like watched a movie here or there and hung out with the youth group and like, talked. But nowadays we cannot plan dates. You do better at this than I do, I will say. Like, And some of it, I think it's because we don't have the opportunities now to really clear the calendar and like make room.
Now we're doing synchrony stuff all the time, but
That's true. I'm going on other people's dates.
You're going on dates with other people in a non-weird way.
Yeah, that sounds weird. Anyway, not that kind of podcast.
Yeah.
But
Oh gosh.
we never developed like a practice of like, oh, hey, you know, we're a couple and it's Friday night. Let's go do something special. Like,
Yeah.
we had our one weekend a month where we're like, everything else in life stops and we're just going to stare at each other for 48 hours. You know?
Yeah, it just felt like going to do something would have taken away the time to be intentional.
Yeah, it would have wasted time.
Yeah, and so, and again, not that dates are not worth investing in. There's definitely especially in marriage,
we need to work on
we
this.
need to do it more.
Yeah, this is something that we talk about working on. It's like, spoiler, like your marriage will always have things that have to be worked on. This is one for us. It's like crafting intentional time.
Now we have toddlers and we have excuses to not do it, but
we have 1,000 excuses, but we got to get better at it too.
Yeah, we do. But that being said, we were terrible at it from the beginning.
Yeah. We mutually forgot our first dating anniversary.
I mean, who remembers dating anniversaries? Let's be honest.
Some people are very serious about their dating anniversaries,
and some people are crazy.
No, we're not going to say that. Some people just find those milestones to be very meaningful and important. Don't you judge just because you don't remember anniversaries.
Okay, the pot calling the kettle black.
Yeah, I don't remember them either. I'm surprised I remember that ours was next week. Honestly,
I know,
it's been so busy.
But yeah, I think that was the one thing is because we were so intentional about being like just with each other and getting to know each other better. It kind of set the pace for our marriage to like not know how to date, like go on dates well.
Yeah.
So
what of the like non-date dates that you and I do? Like, cause we have things that we do together that are special and fun for us that are like non-dates.
Yeah.
What is your favorite?
Giving the kids to one of the grandparents and coming home and sleeping. Taking a nap. Like, I love you, but let's get some sleep.
My favorite kind of non-date date was when we lived in Fort Myers and we would go through that drive-through convenience store with a really good sweet tea. And we would get a big glass of sweet tea.
Just go on a drive.
Yeah, just drive
around. That was
around.
also during COVID, too.
Yeah, there was nothing you could do. You couldn't talk to anybody.
You couldn't go anywhere, so we just drove.
Yeah, we probably spent more money on gas than we should have then, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, anyway, I guess if that's the one detriment that we got from our long-distance relationship, I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah.
You do have to decide where you're going to live when you finally get married. And for what it's worth, you know, when we take into account people's preferences about distance, the way that I frame it in consultations are I ask, you know, okay, in the survey, I ask about their preference for relocating. Like, would they be willing to do they have to stay where they are? Would they be willing to move to a different city in their state or a different state or move internationally? So I know that going into the consultation, but then I ask, you know, like, okay, you said you'd be okay with this type of movement. Clarify a couple things about that. How do you feel about it during the dating phase? Like, are you open to the idea of being with someone who's distant and how far? So we'll make sure that if you're the person who cannot move, that we pair you with someone who is
willing to move. Yeah.
Right. But in some cases, both people are kind of open to like, oh, well, I could move or whatever, or I could stay here. And then you have to make decisions when you do get married about where you go. But by the time you're deciding on getting married, you've cleared all the barriers.
Yeah.
Usually, like, it's just like, how do we, you know, where's the best real estate? Whose family do we need to be close to? Where's the best job? You know?
Yeah. It's funny. Our first marriage was like halfway across the country from each other. Sorry, not our first marriage. The first marriage in Synchrony.
Yeah, our first Synchrony couple.
And then there's another one that's pretty serious, that's literally across the country from one another.
Yeah, we're just going coast to coast.
Yeah.
But they're finding a way.
Yeah. And the thing is I think that's what's so cool about Synchrony is I love the efficiency of it. I know. I'm sorry, people who listen to us consistently. It's getting all the big questions answered. So that way, when you're talking to that person, you know they are willing to move to you if you cannot move.
Right.
Like, they are willing to deal with your life situation or are willing to consider your life situation. And it makes so much sense to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it does. Have we beaten this topic into the ground?
Maybe.
Anything else you want to say about long distance dating? Fond
Invest
memories.
in a fuel efficient car.
Yeah, start stacking up those frequent flyer miles.
Yeah.
You know, look up ways to hack travel costs.
Yep. I'm sure there's more we're forgetting.
Yeah. But if you have questions about long distance dating, you can always send them to questions@synchronyproject.com and we can talk about them some more.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm just still thinking.
What's your here?
We don't have Operation 50/50 to talk about anymore.
Yeah, we don't have that many announcements.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Reminder, like really quick, reminder that if you're a person who has had a consultation with us and you're not involved in the Synchrony community space,
Oh, yeah.
like please take a look at that. And if you're not sure how to get access to it or you don't remember, you can't find the link, reach out to us. We have a lot of cool stuff going on in there. So we have a course that a lot of people have taken now. We've gotten good feedback about that. We have.
I was looking. We've had 50 people take it.
Really?
Yeah. The dating barriers.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to go look and just kind of take in all the stats about it. Yeah, where people are getting a lot of value out of that, I think, and we're planning to do more, guys. Now that we're past this big sales push, I think we could shift and focus on that a little bit more. Hopefully, that's my brain candy. So I'm excited about doing more of that.
More courses. More hopefully
resources.
some special speakers for the community too.
Yeah, so with the community, we do meetups where we get together sometimes in more of a workshop capacity, sometimes just socially to play games and hang out and laugh. And it's great because you get to meet other people that are in there looking. You might meet someone that you think is interesting. There have been several matches lately that were initiated through the match check.
Yep.
Which is in the community. You can, if you bump into someone in there that you think is interesting or that you think you find attractive, you can submit a form to ask about their alignment with your values, and I'll very discreetly just go check to see. And we've had people who have started conversations that way because, they just took the initiative, and I was like, yeah, there's nothing really holding you back. Like, let's chat about it. So a lot of cool stuff happening in there, a lot of great people to meet. And we just want it to feel like a resource to you. So if you have had a consultation and you want access to the community and you don't know how to get it, you can reach out to us and we'll make sure that you get access.
Yep. And one last thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you enjoy this podcast or if you hate it, please leave a comment on whatever platform you're listening on or rate it. It will really help get this out to more people. Yeah. And I know personally when I look up new podcasts, I like to see how many ratings they have.
Right.
And so the more you see there, the more validity it gives it. So please, that would help us a lot. And just be honest. I'm not asking you to lie about it for us, but it would help us a lot.
On that same note, if you were not here for our last episode that was directed at pastors and leaders, please take a moment to go back and grab that link and share it with your leadership. We want them to have access to us and for us to be able to answer their questions or to get in contact with our pastor, who has basically given us a blank check.
Oh, gosh, I know.
We're like, Pastor.
Not a literal blank check, but like to his time of vouching for the project.
Yeah, no, he was like, y'all can just share my cell phone number. I'm like, Pastor,
no,
we are not going to give out your cell phone number to people.
Because we're not going to be responsible for your resentment if this blows up.
You know. Anyway, make sure to share that with your pastoral leadership and or your hyphen ministry, your young adult ministry, your widows and grief ministry, whatever you feel like is the right avenue. We would love to talk more to them. Hey, babe.
Hey, babe, guess what?
What?
It's been 6 months of podcasting.
6 months.
Yeah, we've been doing it for 26 weeks.
That's wild. I am shocked.
Half a year.
I am shocked at our consistency.
We are defying the ADHD boundaries.
I have never had this. I've never had this much of a habit before in my entire life. This is the longest I have ever sustained a habit.
This lets you know we actually like doing it.
We really do.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It is.
It's fun to do this with you.
It's been a blast.
Hey, thank you for putting up this really nice backdrop and getting us all set up and making it feel really pretty in here.
Thanks.
I kind of want to paint our whole room this color.
Yeah, that would have been a lot easier.
Maybe. It looks really nice. You did a great job.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend. Well, Have a great week.
Oh yeah, have a great week. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.